All right, welcome everyone to today's explainer. I am absolutely pumped to share this one with you because we are embarking on this sort of magical storybook adventure straight into the microscopic world. We're going to uncover the science behind literally the most important technology on planet Earth. And to help us navigate this invisible realm, I want you to meet our little hero here, Silicon. He's a very special atom, and as we follow his journey today, you're going to discover exactly how he powers almost every single modern device you use.
Okay, let's dive into this with a bit of a controversial but entirely true question for you. Did you know the ordinary sand at the beach is secretly outsmarting you? I know, it sounds crazy, right? But the primary ingredient in sand is silica, and that is exactly where we get pure silicon. So, that exact same stuff from your summer beach trip, it gets purified, flattened out, and completely transformed into the brilliant microchips that give your smartphone its smarts, letting it do billions of calculations every single second. Sand is, quite literally, the brain of the digital age. So, here is our roadmap, our storybook table of contents for today. 1. The magic switch secret. 2. Discovering the super rocks. 3. How the magic works. 4. Superpowers in your gadgets. And finally, 5. Glitches and scientific limits. Let's get right to it.
Chapter 1. The Magic Switch Secret. Meet the semiconductor.
To kick things off, let's just do a high-energy countdown of the 5 spectacular super science secrets that make semiconductors the absolute marvels of the modern world. Number 1, it's a shapeshifter. It can completely change how it behaves. Number 2, it acts as this magic electrical on and off switch. Number 3, to unlock its power, it actually needs a little sprinkle of magical dopant dust. Number 4, it is the foundation that powers our entire digital world. And number 5, which is super cool, unlike almost anything else out there, the smaller it shrinks, the smarter and faster it gets.
So, the crucial point here is the actual definition. A semiconductor is exactly what it sounds like, you know? It's a material with electrical conductivity sitting perfectly in the middle, somewhere between a full conductor and a total insulator. It, well, semiconducts.
You can think of it kind of like the story of Goldilocks. On one side, you've got conductors, like copper wire. These are like a super fast water slide where electricity just zooms right through without stopping. They're way too fast to control. Then, on the other side, you have insulators, like glass or rubber. These are essentially a giant brick wall completely blocking the electricity. Too stubborn. But a semiconductor, it is just right.
And because they sit right there in the middle, semiconductors act like a magic gate. We can actually control exactly when they let electricity pass and when they block it, by doing things like changing the temperature or shining a light on them, or applying a tiny electrical voltage. We can open and close this gate. That simple, basic ability to switch on and off, that is the entire foundation of computer code. All the ones and zeros that make up every video game, every app, and every website you use.
Chapter 2. Discovering the super rocks, a timeline of magic. Now, this magic didn't just happen overnight. In fact, it took well over 100 years to unlock the rock's true power. Way back in 1821, Thomas Seebeck first noticed some special electrical features in certain materials. Then by 1833, the famous scientist Michael Faraday spotted that, unlike regular metals, silver sulfide actually conducted electricity way better when it got hot. Fast forward to 1874, and Ferdinand Braun builds the very first semiconductor device, which was a crystal detector. But it wasn't until a massive breakthrough in the 20th century that the world truly changed forever.
And that breakthrough happened in 1947. That is the year scientists at Bell Labs invented the very first working transistor. Before this, computers had to use these massive, scorching hot, super fragile glass tubes called vacuum tubes. The transistor replaced those giant, clunky tubes with a tiny, solid piece of semiconductor crystal. Bam! It was the literal spark that ignited the entire digital revolution.
Chapter 3, How the Magic Works, the Science of Doping. Welcome to the invisible realm. If we shrink all the way down inside the atom, here's the funny thing about our hero. Pure silicon ice is actually a bit lazy. In its pure, intrinsic state, all of its electrons are perfectly happy. They're tightly bound together. It really doesn't want to conduct electricity at all. So, to wake it up and get those electrons moving, scientists have to use a process called doping.
Okay, let's do a little interactive mental experiment here to see how doping actually works. Step 1. Imagine a room full of people sitting perfectly still in their chairs. That is our pure silicon crystal.
Step 2, we sprinkle in our magic dopant dust. In the real world, this means intentionally adding a tiny, precise amount of a different element, an impurity, into the crystal. Step 3, suddenly the music starts. The dopant dust either adds an extra person who doesn't have a chair, or it takes a chair away entirely, leaving an empty seat. Now, to balance things out, the electrons start jumping from seat to seat, conducting electricity like this massive, microscopic game of musical chairs.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that there are two different types of musical chairs we can play. If we sprinkle in an element like phosphorus, it has extra electrons. We call this N-type because there's an extra negative charge bouncing around looking for a seat. But if we sprinkle in an element like boron, it's actually missing an electron. It creates an empty chair, which scientists call a hole. We call this P-type because that empty hole acts exactly like a positive charge.
And here is where the ultimate magic trick happens. When engineers sandwich an N-type and a P-type material right next to each other, they create something called a P-N junction. Because of how those extra electrons in the empty holes interact right at the border, it creates a magical one-way street. Electricity can flow easily in one direction, but it is completely blocked from going the other way. This creates a device called a diode, and I'm telling you, it is the absolute core of all digital logic.
Chapter 4. Superpowers in your gadgets.
Where exactly do they hide?
Let's move to and see how this builds into the incredible gadgets we rely on every single day. In your smartphone, billions of microscopic semiconductor transistors act as the brains, processing your photos and your videos. In modern cars, semiconductors act as the nerves, using specialized sensors to manage the engine, the brakes, and those sleek dashboard displays. And out in the sun, semiconductors act as energy converters inside solar panels, capturing sunlight and directly transforming it into clean electricity using what's called the photovoltaic effect. But, silicon isn't working alone. While silicon is definitely the king of the industry, mostly because it's super abundant and reliable, there is an entire superhero team of other materials out there. Germanium is used when things need to be extra speedy. Gallium arsenide is famous for its optical superpowers, powering things like lasers and high-frequency microwave devices. And silicon carbide? That's the tough guy of the group. It handles extreme voltages and extreme heat, making it absolutely perfect for the fast chargers and powertrains inside electric vehicles.
And this brilliantly illustrates why computing power is growing exponentially. Have you ever heard of Moore's Law? It's this famous observation stating that the number of transistors you can fit on a microchip doubles approximately every 2 years. Just think about that for a second. Every 2 years, computing power grows exponentially, all because we keep figuring out how to make these microscopic switches smaller and smaller, packing literally billions of them onto a space the size of your fingernail.
Chapter 5. Glitches and Scientific Limits. Because hey, even heroes have weaknesses.
The problem with packing billions of electrical switches into such a tiny space is that they generate a massive amount of heat. Managing these overheating chips is a constant battle for engineers. Furthermore, the manufacturing process is incredibly delicate. We're talking about patterns carved into these chips that are smaller than a single bacteria. That means just one microscopic speck of dust floating in the air can ruin an entire batch of chips. That's exactly why they have to be manufactured in specialized facilities called clean rooms by engineers wearing full, head-to-toe protective suits.
And actually, speaking of full protective suits and manufacturing, I need to quickly drop in our standard reminder here. While doing mental experiments like our musical chairs is super fun, any real-world physical or electrical scientific experiments should always be done safely and under the supervision of a responsible adult. Real science always prioritizes safety first. So where does silicon's story go from here? Well, we're currently hitting the absolute extreme limits of physics. Chips are becoming so incomprehensibly small that the transistors are literally approaching the size of a few atoms. The gates are getting so thin that electrons can sometimes magically teleport right through them. It's a glitch called quantum tunneling. Scientists are actively trying to figure out what happens when we completely run out of room on the silicon wafer. We are standing right on the edge of the next great scientific revolution. Which leaves me with one final thought to close our magical storybook today. We took a simple grain of sand, purified it, sprinkled it with magic dust, and taught it how to think. We built the entire modern world with it. So the question is, as you learn and grow, and maybe even become an engineer yourself, what will you teach it to do next? Thank you so much for exploring the microscopic world with me today, and keep asking those big questions.